Let me take you down, 'cause I'm going to strawberry fields. Nothing is real, and nothing to get hung about. Strawberry fields forever. Living is easy with eyes closed. Misunderstanding all you see. It's getting hard to be someone, but it all works out. Doesn't matter much to me. Let me take you down, 'cause I'm going to strawberry fields. Nothing is real, and nothing to get hung about. Strawberry fields forever. No one I think is in my dream. I mean, it must be high or low. That is, you know, you can't tune in, but it's alright. That is, I think it's not too bad. Let me take you down, 'cause I'm going to strawberry fields. Nothing is real, and nothing to get hung about. Strawberry fields forever. Always know sometimes think it's me, but you know I know when it's a dream. I think I know, I mean, yes, but it's all wrong. That is, I think I disagree. Let me take you down, 'cause I'm going to strawberry fields. Nothing is real, and nothing to get hung about. Strawberry fields forever. Strawberry fields forever. Strawberry fields forever.
Sweet. Thank you, guys. So now we will go into the phase where we can actually talk about the Scotland and whatever it was, if anyone wants to.
Well, do they have sheep there like they do in Ireland? The same kind of countries? I mean, they probably have similar language.
Lots.
Lots of sheep too.
Yeah.
Huh.
There are a lot of dialects there, I believe. The language is called Gaelic. And
That's the old language.
that's the old, the ancient language.
Now they
haven't-
nobody speaks Gaelic anymore.
So when you
In
say they were
Ireland, a
singing
lot
in
of
Scottish, that's what I was
Oh.
curious about. When you say they were singing in Scottish, were they singing like in modern, their modern
Yes.
Scottish dialect?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. So my grandmother was born on the Isle of Skye. Her maiden name was Nicholson. She was part of the Stuart clan. So I was raised in that culture. No kidding, Rose Nicholson, really?
No, by
Stuart.
marriage.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and so it was really interesting, and grew up with the pipe and drum records. And my father was a drummer, so I was listening to all his
wow.
jazz records.
Oh,
But when I would
sweet.
go over to my grandparents' house, my grandmother and my aunt Nora, and my grandmother's real name was actually Morag, but we called her Sally. That was her American name. But they had these amazing records with the pipe and drum, and just incredible stuff. They put that stuff on. We
Right.
have, it was kind of, they had all the plaid everywhere in the house. You know, we kind of grew up with that. You know, it was just kind of the other side of the family culture.
I went to Ireland
deep
once
culture.
and had the, you know, I ended up with these two guys, and they were, they'd gone to the school where all you do is you speak whatever that, you know, like the Celtic language or whatever. I mean, they had gone to school, that was their school where they spoke that language. So they took me to this Ballyshannon, to this folk festival, and it was all under a big tent. And all these people were dancing, and the kids, you know, even the young kids, I mean, I say, oh gosh, they must have come out of the womb dancing like that, because it's not like, it's like they're already doing it no matter how young they are.
Well, doing
And,
well, yeah.
oh yeah, and it was just beautiful, and you know, with the thing, they had to do that thing under their arm to make all the music that,
Pumping the
That-
bagpipe.
yeah, they had to pump it, yeah, so I mean, I just thought it was incredible, that whole sense of, and just going in this old van, and the guys were so nice and so polite, and they would, you know, they say, oh, you sleep in there, and then we'll sleep out here, and then they would like get up and get fish, and then they'd cook fish in the morning, and I mean, it was just a dream.
You all make me want to Google the history of bagpipe.
Oh,
When I get
yeah.
home.
So that's,
I wonder how that, you know, how that developed.
Theirs is a little different, theirs is not the same.
Yeah.
Theirs is a little different from the Scottish
Irish,
one. It's a
Just the whole
different thing.
concept of it.
Yeah,
yeah, and
right.
and those
Where
are,
did it come from?
right, and those are ancient relatively. Ancient, those are ancient cultures that, for us, for our 250-year culture, those are ancient cultures and practices. And the interesting thing is that a culture is something that people practice every day, so that it will allow them to be able to survive and or persist. They needed the culture in order to be able to, they needed the social connectivity, they needed the music, the entertainment, they needed the things that they practice, the stoicness of, for example, the Dutch. The Dutch are known to be very, I'll say stoic, for lack of a
Well, the Danes think that they're stoic.
and we can say that the Danes
Because-
think that they're stoic.
Because
yeah.
when I lived there for a little while, and they would joke, they would say, well, you know, so-and-so gonna leave a note for his partner, because they didn't think that anybody wanted to have a full-on confrontation about anything. It was like very formal and so forth, so other people would react sometimes and be, you know, try and step over the line to kind of throw that off. And of course, then they, you know, because it was kind of more bland outside, they put all these bright colors, get all these things from South America and put them inside their house to make them look more, you know,
Interesting.
to get some color in
Color,
there.
yeah.
But they would kind of make fun of each other about their sort of stolid ways of
Yeah.
not wanting to directly say certain things, you know, so it was.
Well, I'm sorry, question. Are you saying that like it's just kind of an intrinsic part of the culture that you don't engage directly?
Well, I'm just saying
You'd
that they
rather
would
write
joke,
things down and-
they would know, like, you know, about partners. I mean, I lived in a place too where people, there was like one person who was married to another person there, and then, but then they each had another partner, and it was just as terrible as here when that would happen. I mean, it was not really the pretty thing people say, oh, Denmark, they'd be very poor. No, it was just as hard. It didn't go all that well for
Social
them.
pressures. Yeah.
For the, you know, just for the people still don't really like to have their partners go off. No matter how I deal the situation and how I deal the, you know,
culture.
the grass thatched roof and the ancient thing from the
Right, okay.
early 1700s, it doesn't
Still
matter.
the human emotion.
It's still,
that's in play.
you're still gonna have the
Yeah.
same
That's right.
problems about that, yeah.
Yeah, you would think that, like, they always say, well, we're puritanical, and Europe, oh, they're so open with everything, and you're saying.
Right,
that it's
right,
still-
people had that impression about Denmark,
Yeah.
but not so really.
Mm.
Except for maybe the
Interesting.
mailman. The mailman could come in, he could just open the door. It didn't matter if anybody was naked or anything, open the door and he'd drop off the mail, go in the refrigerator, grab a beer. And so that part of it, they did seem to have that pretty, I don't think it was too good for him. He ended up in the hospital with too many beers, I think.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
But
Wow,
it was,
what
I bet he never went postal though.
no, he never did.
He was-
We loved him.
Yeah.
We loved him. He was very wonderful, yeah.
No offense to the mail carriers.
Yeah, the idea, but the idea of that, for us, we don't, I mean, it's sort of interesting. You go to Europe and you see the American tourist Volkswagen van. Then you come back here, I was there and that's what I saw. And when I came back here and I realized that it was the European touring van, the same exact van. But of course they're saying that this is how the Americans tour, and that's how they promote it. The same VW van with the pop-up tent at the top. And then it's, the European touring version here in the States. So our impressions of each other are
That is amusing.
are very interesting. We sort of make them up somewhat. But there are definite characteristics that are with the older cultures, and specifically the social skill sets that they have. Oh, yeah.
I have a little bit to say. I lived in Holland for a while,
Wow.
and I was actually married to a Dutchman for a while.
Super Rose.
And their impression of me was horrible,
Okay.
because they have seen, I'm not that young, but at that time I was in my early 20s, and they had seen a lot of American movies. So they assumed that we were pretty free. We were pretty loose and fancy free, and that we were all a bunch of hippies living in communes, and we all smoked cigarettes, and we all drank ourselves to pieces, and we all drove around in fast cars, and they had a lot of assumptions
Yeah.
about how we were.
Mhm.
And it was really, really hard trying to convince them otherwise, you know?
Interesting.
So everyone has their own impressions of some other culture, and theirs was from seeing movies.
Right.
And they were getting a lot of tourists over there then too. But one of the problems of tourists, especially in Holland at that time had, especially Amsterdam, free drugs.
Mhm.
And so everyone was coming from the States to little old Amsterdam to get high. And so when they saw a person come from America, that's what they thought. Well,
Right,
these
that's
are
right.
people that
Makes
cannot control themselves, and they're all over the street, and they're lying in the park and doing all sorts of horrible things. And so that was a lot to live down, because in their society, like our society, when you're in the center of the society, you're pretty straight and narrow, no matter what society you're in, because you've got to toe the line.
Right.
You've got to be the job on time, you've got to be faithful to your mate, you've got to take care of yourself, and you've got to go to church or whatever you think you have to do, and you have to do this all the time. And so in Germany, when I lived in Germany for a short time. When I lived in Germany, they'd be really like this with blinders on, but they would have a couple holidays. One was the Oktoberfest.
Oh my God.
That would last for a while,
Yeah.
and they'd just let loose.
Yeah.
They would, I saw them.
Complete reckless abandon.
Right.
Complete
exactly.
reckless abandonment, and they would just have a really good time for a couple of weeks, and then they wouldn't say anything to each other, and then they'd go right back inside their boxes.
Two quick
So,
questions for
yes.
you, Rose. How long were you in Holland living there?
I was in Holland only about a year, and in Germany about a year.
Okay.
Correct.
While you were in Holland and experienced that perception of American culture and American people, how did you overcome that?
I don't think I ever did.
And that was going to be my actual question to you.
I-
Were you able to overcome
No,
that?
I worked for American Express, I worked for American companies, and I worked for another publishing company after college, and I stuck with Americans.
Okay.
And there were a couple of people, very interestingly enough, from Venezuela. because there were the Dutch East Indies.
All right.
A lot of the people come over there.
Yeah.
And talk about color. They really have a lot of color that they add to the culture because of their music and their cloth, how they dress, how they think. I mean, everything. They're not loose, but they're different. I mean, they're South American. They're just different.
Cool. Yeah.
And so then they also have the people from Indonesia that bring in all these wonderful foods. So they have a lot of Indonesian restaurants and stuff. So you have a lot of blending of cultures, especially in the bigger cities.
Cool.
Oh,
Yeah, and they're usually very tolerant of that. Recently, there's been an overflow of people from Southern Europe or North Africa coming into, especially to France, as a matter of fact. And the Paris and Parisians are very outspoken about the influence of different groups. And so they had protests in the street.
Well, they made a promise to, you know,
And what happened with
they
that?
made a promise to, you know, so it's like called Pied Noir, so they were supposed to have full, you know, egalite, what do they say? The French say egalite
Okay.
and fraternal full citizenship, but the promise really never came about because they were never given the same job opportunities. They've never been able to really get all those, jobs and acquire the things that other French people. I mean, there's some people have, but for the most part, it's an unfulfilled promise, and there's many people kind of stuck in limbo in these big things like like we have here, like in the East Coast. I know they have this big, and I'm sure we have some here, right here, probably in Ventura County, the big housing projects. I mean, I guess we don't have the really tall ones like they have in Paris and everything, but we, have these big housing facilities that are less than appealing
Really cool.
overall,
Right.
and so
Old,
so I'm not sure of all that, but I know that a
Projects.
lot of it is an unfulfilled promise that they have not been given all the, and I think that a lot of the countries in Europe are maybe not doing quite as much for their citizens as they once did. Like they've all got stressed and strained, and so this
Yeah.
is not something that people are dealing well with. And I don't know what that's
Yeah, it
not
was.
the best thing.
It was different. The resources, one important thing is, after World War II, when we were doing better than ever in the United States, Europe had to reconstruct itself, and it created what's considered social medicine that's now towards where we're headed. And they created a structure that allowed them to be able to, by way of collaboration, they pulled together and became more close-knit and heavy taxing. And they created a structure where they could actually survive, and the things that are so tiny, the small. We've got all this space, and J.R. Ewing, and the Texas. We've got a lot of space. Everything is big, and they say everything is big in the United States. And everything is smaller, but they pulled everything together and cleaned it up and polished it, and after the war to reconstruct it. And then came the new economy, the new global economy, which since the 90s has affected us. And so all the people now that are coming out of different countries that would normally immigrate into the country, and they would be assimilated and given various labor jobs, which is what you're saying. We need a new paradigm of thinking in order to be able to provide a place for them in the same way that things changed after World War II. There had to be a new way to be able to make things work, and that's what they're. And again, my perception with Homo sapiens on the planet Earth is that's what we do. We figure out how to survive things and how to create solutions. We are very resourceful that way. And then it's a time period, and it's like, this is terrible, this is terrible, this is terrible. And then, well, we changed this, or this is terrible, we changed that. And then after a while, then it gets better again. And then it gets worse again. And it's, this is terrible, this is terrible. And it goes on and on and on every 100, 200, 300 years, 400 years. and we're just a part of that big picture of growth and expansion. I mean, but especially in the last 100 years because our population went through the roof. But it'll be interesting the solutions we find.
Where did the Raj, was he ever heard from after he went back to
I haven't heard
India or
from
anything like that?
No.
Because I remember seeing some kind of thing where, on PBS or something, that about him, like this woman took over the everyday running of the place.
Yeah.
And then I think she did something outlandish, like there was some kind of thing about the schools, the schools, they changed the school and they were fighting, they got control of the school for a while. She did, and then I think I could be imagining this, but I thought there was some kind of thing where she actually did something really, really, really bad, like maybe trying to poison somebody or something.
Yeah,
Something really bad. And of course then it was probably good that he got out of there. I don't remember how that resolved, but it was like, it really, things devolve. I guess at some point everybody's gotta, like if you have a guru, if you don't throw out your guru sometime, then you're really, if there was, I guess a good guru says, hey, you're gonna have to throw me out sometime soon, so just keep that in mind, because, it's like, you can't just be hanging on to the gurus.
That would be a good way to measure one. Real spiritual transmission takes place in very small groups. Once they get big,
Yeah, it's different.
I mean, the
it's
guy,
too much openness.
the guy over
There's too
here,
much control.
Larry Reynoso, over at that Makoto dojo, I remember he said that he used to do some stuff with Steven Seagal or something,
Oh, right.
and they had big falling out, but he said, well, your guru is always, you
Right.
have to always get rid of gurus as you go along, so.
Right.
I thought that was a good thing.
And just to be clear too, my impression, which could be, well, it's just my impression, because I stopped paying attention to this Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh guy. This was like the 70s. I was like learning to meditate, and I was using that as a resource, like, ooh, East India, ooh. Anyway, so as a result, I think he stayed like the guru, and the business portion of it was not run by him, and they took it to a whole other level, and it became political and controlling, and he was the guy that sat in the room and meditated, and the next, he was getting booted out of the country. That's sort of how.
Well, they got a bunch of people from like the East Coast and all over the country. They decided they would take over the whole,
Okay.
get enough people there to take over like some of the political offices,
Right,
which
right.
they did. They said, okay, they sent people out to recruit people from these other states, and we're gonna get all the veterans, we're gonna get all the, I forget, but they got all these people, and they were able to get the elections or something, and so,
Right.
I mean, they had some nice things going on for a while. I think they had I met the guy that painted all the signs for their little streets one time.
Oh, wow.
I knew this
So
guy,
you know
I can't remember his
him,
name now, but he just thought it was really fun while he was there, and I met him because he could paint, I saw him painting signs on windows, like with really fancy paint, and he was doing it freehand.
Okay.
And I
that's
thought,
good.
my God, how is he could just draw it on there, these professional signs for businesses and stuff, and he could just do it freehand. He was so, his hand was so steady and he could do that. It was just, to me, it was like amazing to see, but I guess he had a lot of practice out there with the Rajneesh or whatever the guy was. He made the street signs for their little streets or something.
So very interesting. So okay, so we've covered a more interesting tour. So hence now we'll say that this was the dialogue portion where we did get a chance to talk and interact with each other, which we hadn't been able to do in the past. So now we've gotten to do that. So now we can move on and have, if you can, Sir George, you want to do any more music? Is that?
Sure.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, thanks, man.
Hey, you already paid me.
Yes.
Wow.
my own parade. Cast your dancing spell my way. I promised to go under it. Hey, Mr. Tambourine Man, play a song for me. I'm not sleepy and there ain't no place I'm going to. Hey, Mr. Tambourine Man, play a song for me. In the jingle jangle morning, I'll come following you. Take me on a trip upon your magic swirling ship. All my senses have been stripped, and my hands can't feel to grip, and my toes too numb to step. Wait only for my good heels to go wandering. I'm ready to go anywhere. I'm ready for to fade to my own parade. Cast your dancing spell my way. I promise to go under it. Hey, Mr. Tambourine Man, play a song for me. I'm not sleepy and there ain't no place I'm going to. Hey, Mr. Tambourine Man, play a song for me. In the jingle jangle morning, I'll come following
What a sound. What a sound.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. There are places I remember all my life, but some have changed, some forever, not for better. Some have gone on, and some remain. All these places have their moments with lovers and friends. I still can recall. Some are gone and some are living. In my life, I've loved them all. But of all these friends and lovers, there is no one compares with you. And these memories lose their meaning when I think of love as something new. And I know I'll never lose affection for people and things that went before. I know I'll often stop and think about them. In my life, I've loved you more. And I know I'll never lose affection for people and things that went before. I know I'll often stop and think about them.
monologue session, and we'll go briefly into it's a sort of debriefing of the dialogue. So now, if someone wants to address any of the issues, Sir Scott, you actually want to, and we'll keep it to a limited time, but
Yeah.
we can now.
I came
connect on
across
this idea.
this gentleman, I'm a just very big admirer. He's a Nobel Peace Prize winner in 2006, I believe. His name is Mohammed Yunus. In 1974, there was a famine in Bangladesh, and he went around loaning these women that were starving to death 20 or 30, equivalent of $20 to start businesses. And fast forward to this year, he's the grandfather or the father of microcredit, and he's raised $11 billion. And his return rate is 98% on his investments.
Fantastic.
And he has this bank in Bangladesh called the Brahman Bank. Now, I went to school, I'm working on my project, and they said, oh, you need to contact the social business program at Cal State University. So I went on the website, saw the thing, and then there was a little 6-minute video showing Mohammed Yunus and his whole history, showing him getting the Medal of Honor from Obama. He's getting the Nobel Peace Prize, and he's all over the world. And I called the director, and I just had a few drinks with him 3 weeks ago. His name's Martin Luther. He was a big-time executive for Volkswagen. He helped save them $1 billion over so long, and he left the corporate world because he just didn't feel like it was his thing. He took a year off. He was ski bumming in Utah, Lake Tahoe. He ends up running into Mohammed. They become friends, and now he's on his team.
Nice.
And I'm working with Martin, a very interesting guy. He speaks German, French. Obviously, he speaks German, but he speaks French, English, and he went down to Colombia for a couple of years and developed a drink that has a bunch of vitamins to help undernourished kids.
Cool.
And so I'm kind of in this really amazing circle. I'm one step away from Mohammed Yunus, and it's really cool.
That is very cool.
And I just wanted to say, it's worth checking out Cal State University. And this is the first in the whole United States. It's an actual course that's teaching social business, where it's not about dividends, it's not about profits, it's about we'll invest money if it's for the environment, for poverty, for this, and you'll have a living wage and all that stuff. But it's about sustaining businesses that are only for the social good.
Great.
And I'm just like,
People-
wow.
People first, as
Well,
opposed to money first.
It seems like that's really a bigger payoff than anything else.
Oh, you can't put a price on it.
Yeah.
You just can't put a price on it.
I was gonna ask you, who did you guys see yesterday?
His name is Brock Travis. Brock Travis.
Huh,
And they're once-a-month meetings,
interesting.
and
And what is it?
They are at the, this one was called Ancient Wisdom and Serenity. The one last month rather, that I went to was called Ancient Wisdom and Authentic Creativity, which was that was a fun one. The Serenity one was very sober,
was it the Ventura Center for Spiritual Living?
Cool.
on Laurel and Santa Clara.
Oh, okay.
And it's a once-a-month thing with him, but they actually,
Are you on Team Scott? You already
Yeah, I've signed up.
Okay.
it's a rather
Steve,
interesting,
or Ina?
This is
Yeah, sorry, go ahead, yeah.
it's an interesting environment,
Brilliant.
non-denominational.
he's awesome.
And, he kind of guided us through some meditations, and was also, he had some great philosophical angles on healing old wounds. He almost began with that. He kind of meditated us into a place where we relived pain, a loss. And then, in his own way, he helped us work through it. It was really an interesting, very interesting thing, honestly. And it's funny because Mary and I, we went together, we went with a friend, and we were talking on the way here about what loss we were thinking about. And
Oh, okay.
And it turned out, I mean, she thought about her mom briefly, but it was our dog. It was this dog that we had for many years when our kids were little. And he was, you know, he looked a whole lot like that, actually. He was an Akita mix that was very unique. I mean, everybody that saw this animal was like, what kind of dog is that? I mean, nobody could figure it out. And he had an incredible personality. And you know, he died in my arms. And I think it was this sort of, that the trauma of that loss in such a personal way, because we've lost people. I mean, I've lost people within the last month. But I didn't think about them. I thought about my dog. So I think it's the unconditional love that an animal gives you that you really miss that. I mean, you miss that person, but that person might have had some annoying traits. That person, that person might have done something to you at one point. Or they may have said something that was kind of racist sometime that you just like thought, you kind of you blocked them in.
Yes.
You know, but an animal, you never do that.
Well, not only that, but like you said, Saki died in your arms. So it was a really complete circle.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't a friend that, you know, had an accident and died,
Right.
which you're not really connected to that event.
Yeah, you remember the pup?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
and the whole
But he
It's
was
all
able to
the way
bring
around.
that pain into a place where you could address it and then purge it. And because of his method, you know, and it was very like hypnotic.
Okay.
I would liken him to a hypnosis experience where he repeated things and his tone of voice and his cadence and everything was just right.
Okay.
And was very healing and very beneficial.
I have a couple
There we go.
comments actually for you.
Another one, yeah.
For one thing, it seems like your project is meant to be. You know, from what you've said, the connections are coming through and you're being drawn together with the right people. And my other comment is, the 4 people that you anticipate having as narrators are all men. What is up with that?
No, I have women.
Oh, okay.
I'm looking-
Okay, good, because
I'm
you
gonna
said
have-
4 and they were
I'm
all
gonna-
guys.
I have women soldiers, and and if no one's signed on. I mean, I have dialogue with Matt Damon's people. That's it. But I'm gonna have female soldiers, and I'm looking for. I'm not sure, but those are the people that are in my circle right now.
Yeah.
And believe me, I have lots of. The most important person, I just gave you the card, is this woman, Stephanie Gulu, who does lymphatic work.
Mm-hmm.
And she's going to be a very vital, very important part of this, because our lymphatic system are like grapes,
Yeah.
and she'll be doing the lymphatic work. And what's beautiful about what she does is basically she's going to be teaching other people to do it. But this simple therapy, it's very clinical massage, will release so many toxins from these soldiers that they will literally, you'll watch them walk in with dark skin, and they'll walk out of the room bright. And I've seen it when I worked at the cancer clinic, where people were getting chemo and they were just really worn out. They would go in and they would come out looking like totally the opposite.
Mhm.
So she's going to be like a major.
great.
She's a real important part of it.
The ladies
I'd
are
like
in
to
there.
Yeah, well, I'd like to see a female celebrity.
they're-
That was, yeah.
Definitely.
You know, I was thinking, I don't know how available she is at all, but the girl from the pirate movies. Pirates of
Kira?
Yeah, Kira.
Kira Sidwick.
Maybe Sidwick.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Kira
Knightley.
Nightly.
Yeah.
That's another.
One of
That's
the
another.
curious.
That's
Yeah.
another.
But anyways,
One
that's,
of them.
you know.
Yeah, you know, there's
I
going to be
have
a
no-
British contingency because there, you know, obviously there were British soldiers
Right.
over there. So that's with Anthony Hopkins, and Anthony Hopkins is more of kind of the World War II
Yeah.
or the North Korea, South Korea type thing. So I want to kind of get a spectrum of different, you know,
Yeah.
ages.
Perspectives.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't want
Right.
any one celebrity to dominate it. I want it to basically go.
Right. So what I think is that everything is happening. The world is coming, like James Dean said, you're tearing me apart. the world.
Made famous in Earth Girls Are Easy, by the way.
Oh, okay, yes, yes.
Oh,
Yes. So, yes. So it is coming apart. It's shredding, and at the same time it's being held
People are
together.
trying to heal it.
And it's being healed.
well,
More so we are
But the
There-
sun will vaporize us, and it will be gone soon.
eventually. There's
And then we'll reappear in some other part of the galaxy.
I don't know. I feel like that. I think that the Earth will remain, but people will be gone. I think
The
Mother
fleas.
Nature will reclaim
The
itself.
fleas in the back of the dog.
Well, when,
That's
when
a-
the
Yes.
sun, you know,
Well,
supernovas.
Eventually, yeah,
Yeah.
eventually.
I think that's what's beautiful, though, and that's something that didn't come up last night, but it made me think. There was something within the conversation that made me think about it.
Right.
Is that everybody's problem, everybody's dilemma, and everybody's loss, everybody's project, everybody's creative juices, and all this stuff. It's like the planet is flying. I mean, it doesn't feel like it,
It's-
but you're not there anymore.
Yeah.
You know, you were, but you know, now you're here. But I mean, you get what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
we're moving with
Yeah.
such velocity,
Yeah.
and the planet is moving with such velocity around the sun that really
And the
whatever
sun is
happened,
moving.
it happened over there. It didn't happen. It doesn't exist here. It's almost like there's a way to look at problems
Right.
that can make them disappear right now, because
No.
the problem isn't here. It was over there.
Right, that's right.
And in spatial terms, you
Yeah.
could say, yeah, it was there, and we're over here now. We're not even over. It's not our reality.
Yep.
Right. We
Yep.
have the power to hold on to it and to create.
Well,
the
and that's the
image of it.
problem, like
Yes.
with Israel and Gaza, and,
Yes,
and
yes.
with all of the problems with
It-
Ukraine
it's
and
abuse-
Russia.
it-
It's
But-
these
Potentially it's
grudges.
abuse.
old grudges, these
Yeah.
old
Hundreds
arguments.
of years.
Transitions are
Thousands of years.
always
You guys-
violent.
But it's
Yeah.
just like, I mean, if I were, you would think that there would be a point, well, and I'm sure there are. I'm sure there are. There's a lot of people that would say, we're freaking idiots. You know, that we're killing each other. It's like you think but in the heart of the thing, they just go at it. And speaking of time fly, I think that time is flying, especially, you know, for me as I get older. I'm thinking,
But
you know,
in general.
God, you know, that was great. That was like, what, 5 years ago? Dude, that was 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
The universe is expanding.
Okay, but my kids say the same thing.
Yeah.
And my kids are 23 and 26. And they said
That's
it when,
terrible.
when
And
they
we
were
never said it when we were
teenagers.
20. We
That's-
never
wow.
said, boy,
See,
that went by so quick. It's Christmas already? No way.
Yeah.
It's Christmas shopping?
But I do think the time is actually moving faster.
I
That's
do too.
scary.
I don't think there's any doubt about it.
Interesting.
Because I think everybody unanimously agrees with that notion that, what, it's Christmas time again?
Yeah.
Well, you know,
Yeah, well, I mean-
there was a theory
This-
about why time goes faster as you get older, that basically your core temperature of your body, when you're young, is lower, and for some reason, as your core temperature goes up from like a point of a good degree, as you age, it gets slightly hotter, like a tenth or a hundredth of a degree. The perception of time goes faster. But then also, you got to remember when you were in school, you were staring at a clock all day long. So you were
I
like,
was.
I know I was. So it's like, oh my God, it's only been 10 minutes. You just, okay, it's only been 5 minutes. And but then when you
But
have,
that's when you were a little kid.
no, I know.
Pretty much right.
Well-
But when you're at
I-
school,
I
there's a
think all
clock
those-
and you're staring at a clock.
Yeah, I think all those are true. Also, technology has changed the world.
Yes.
And there's more to do every moment of every day.
Yes.
Immediacy.
And so
everywhere.
we're stuck
Yes.
in that,
That's
ever-flowing
a
moment.
great point.
Yeah.
The fact that you
and,
could,
and it's all those.
all
it's
this
I know.
data,
Yeah.
you're getting tons of data instantly. That,
It's a
Mhm.
blessing and a curse.
yeah,
And
and
it's made us antisocial. It's made people, you know, you watch people and they're like zombies walking the street looking at the
Everybody-
box. And they're on their car and they're not driving.
everybody's
they're looking at their box.
ADHD
Well,
because of this.
You know, that,
Absolutely.
everybody-
I seriously thought that
Everybody
I
is-
had adult onset ADHD, but you
Right.
know what? It's not. There are just so
Everybody.
many more distractions than there
yeah,
used
but,
to be.
but it got worse for me because I think I always had it. Like, oh, I ought to get this done. Oh no, wait, this is done. All right, I'll do it. Oh, hey,
I go on the website, I look at, oh, wait a minute, I look at that, I look at this, and look at that.
I'll
Yeah,
get everything done.
This
if
is
I
all
can-
we do.
taught.
Yeah.
And
It's
that's
now
all
taught.
she and I do, is
Okay, you guys
multitask
are
all
there.
day long on,
Yeah.
you know, 18, 24 different clients daily and jumping around and the days fly by and it's like, what happened to that day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all
It's
the more
just
reason,
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
saying what we had just finished saying here about the technology making people antisocial, and you always, you know, there's that immediacy, and all the more reason for a place like this.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, yes.
Hallelujah.
Well,
Yeah, so we need
You
to
know?
celebrate you because this is a great concept and a great,
yeah, firm.
you
Right
on.
Forget about
you
it.
created
Firm
this
is the man.
this ooze for us to climb out of. And Frank, we got to celebrate Frank because
Right.
Frank's
Oh,
talent.
well, celebrate.
He filled this room with beautiful sounds as he always does, and that's
Well,
that's such a
amazing
gift.
energy.
I wanted to say, no, you guys have, but you know, that was one observation that I will say. When I was at the strip clubs in Vegas, the music sucks. It sucks.
EDM, right?
It's just, it's shit. It's just.
It's EDM.
EDM, and it's so huge.
Yeah, and
Did you know that's the
everybody.
number one draw in Vegas right now? That is the number one moneymaker. It used to be, you know, Liberace and there's
Oh.
those
Dude,
guys
the
with
Lion-
Mega shows, yeah.
You're telling me, man. You
What
know
is
what?
the
The
number one?
money flowing through those places.
The strip clubs are the
This-
number
this-
one?
No,
Strip clubs?
EDM.
Oh,
That's
okay.
that's the number one. It used to be Cirque du Soleil for a while. Used to be this for a
So
while.
you talk about the music?
the DJ.
Yeah.
That whole
yeah.
vibe.
Right.
That's the number one draw for people going to Vegas right now.
But at the same time, you
It's
know,
crazy.
I think, you know, God, you think, and I'm sure you've probably thought of this too, Robert. You thought, yeah, what am I doing? I'm wasting my time. I'm doing this other thing, and this other shit's like. But
No, I've
listen,
done
I do
that
that
too.
in my sleep.
But-
I've done that too.
But at the same
EDM, I
time,
love
though, there's a backlash to everything. I
Right.
think there's like someone might go, you know, I'm going to go see Robert tonight because he doesn't do that.
Yeah.
He
Yeah,
does
that's true.
something else.
But the EDM, it promotes, it gets women particularly loose and dancing and grooving and grinding, and it gets people drinking, and that's what makes
Not
money.
me.
Yep.
Is that-
Well,
Makes me want to leave. I want to get out of here.
You're,
Well, but
you're
you're not
repelled
25.
by it because you
I
can't.
just told that to
Yeah.
Firman tonight. I told him, man, I'm not, you know, because I wasn't wearing a bachelor thing, you know, and
Yeah,
you know, this thing isn't on, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
it's been on the whole
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
But
Oh,
the
no,
other
I know,
thing,
but-
there's so many choices of music that it is so far diluted. When we grew up, there was just a few
Okay.
genres. But there's like 100 different genres of music.
Right.
But I think that's.
Subgenres
If
and
that.
breakoffs
I
of
mean,
that.
there's
and-
like
yeah.
thousands.
There's like
It's
20
nuts.
types of heavy metal now.
I used to
Right,
think that was
right.
a bad thing, but I think it's a great thing because I remember there was a time where, like, you know, and I'm sure Robert, you remember this one, like you've been playing. I can't do that song. That sounds too 70s. Now it's like you could do anything.
That's right.
Anything. Oh, I'm gonna do a disco song, a total 70s big heel disco song. And someone out there will go, man, I love this guy.
Yeah, yeah. I love that
Yeah.
song.
Yeah.
And he's doing it good.
Yeah, yeah. I can just see.
Well,
him.
and the internet gives you the exposure.
Yeah, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, and the concept of, like in the last 10,000 years, our brain size increased an extra 2 pounds because of what it was that we were exposed to.
Yeah, that makes sense,
It's,
though.
it's probably increasing now.
That's why my neck hurts.
At a larger rate
By the
because of the escalated, you know,
So much shit
accelerated
going on.
exposure.
Yeah.
Please
to
write this
ideas and
down, everybody.
concepts, and we're taking in more information and brain cells and everything.
Please write this
And that's
down.
just-
Bulletproof coffee method. I've been doing it for 1 month. I don't know if you guys have heard about it. You take 2 tablespoons of grass-fed butter, add a tablespoon of MCT oil or coconut oil, put it in your coffee, and you blend it. Everybody is fat deficient. I've been doing it for a month. My libido is up, my skin is soft, my hair is soft. I have tons of energy. My blood sugar doesn't drop. I've stopped eating weed. It's going to be featured in the documentary.
Oh, brilliant.
2 tablespoons of butter?
I
2
put-
tables.
I gave you one.
I know, I had it.
2
I like,
tablespoons.
I did.
Well,
Could've
hot
left-
butter drum is kind of that way.
What was that?
Hot butter drum.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Well,
butter
I've been
and
doing
hot
it
water.
for about a month now, and there was one day I said, well, I don't need to do it today, and I literally was like a drug addict, like, you know, I was in LA and I should have done it, and then I have a friend that does it, and he goes, you know, I had to go to my golf game, I was running late, I just took 2 tablespoons of butter, put it in my mouth, and I got my MCT oil, put it in my mouth, and I grabbed my coffee and I stopped the door.
Yeah,
Because
and
I
you know
wasn't
what?
gonna, I wasn't gonna miss it.
And you are absolutely right, though.
Interesting.
In the 70s, speaking of the 70s, that's when the low-fat diet
That is,
hit
That
the
is caused-
media, and I absolutely, and artificial sweeteners.
Yeah.
Both of those.
Yeah,
Have
they're-
killed
And has
millions of people. Ruined many lives.
Exactly.
Yes.
It has ruined the
Heart
the
fat
physical,
heart
no,
disease.
it has
You-
actually
you-
ruined the fitness
Cancer,
of
heart disease.
America.
And when I used to taste those, like, Tab and all that, I go,
Yeah.
this sucks.
Oh, yeah.
This does not taste like
I've
a
never
Coke.
drank soft drinks.
And I only buy all my meat from Ventura Meat Company, it's all grass-fed.
Grass-fed right out there.
And
yeah.
I've been drenching my body with high quality fats, and I feel very strong.
Well,
Yeah.
they say the reason why Japanese people and the people in Italy, they live a long time because they eat everything that's around.
Yes, within 100 miles,
Around,
local
yeah.
eating.
See, because I never thought of that. I just,
Absolutely.
I just like, hey man, this is from
Of course,
China.
that could be a real problem in like Greenland.
Well, there you go.
Or Antarctica.
Sure.
I mean,
No,
not a lot of
sure,
people
Yeah.
there.
Sure, right,
That's why
right.
there's no peace.
But they don't live a long time in Antarctica either.
They actually do.
Do they?
Well,
It-
I don't know, I'm just thinking about,
North Pole.
they have a lot of fish. they
Yeah.
have a lot of
Yeah, no,
Blubber.
people that have a lot of fish, definitely. That is definitely a.
Well, people that live in
Except
Alaska.
Japan, because now it's all radioactive.
Well, right, right.
That's
Yeah,
right.
that's not a good thing.
Sorry.
Yeah, we're digressing.
Yeah, well, they're in trouble. But you know, the atomic bomb.
We're all in trouble.
The
We're all in
atomic
trouble.
bomb went off there, man.
It did.
They
160 times the Hiroshima bomb
is that what they
was
said?
emitted into the atmosphere.
But see, I think that's hitting us all, though, man.
It's hitting us all.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
And they're pulling the water, the radioactive water, out of the Fukushima,
Fukushima.
Fukushima,
Uh-huh.
the Fukushima plant. And they're taking that water and they're filling these enormous tanks, like these giant oil tanks. And when you look at it from the air,
With heavy-
it's just a matrix of these things. They look like Legos. There's just a million of these tanks, and they're leaking. So the problems are beyond belief with that
And
situation.
they just can't just send them out to space and.
Oh, yeah, there's a good.
There's the answer.
Yeah.
Send Japan out to space.
Yeah.
Godzilla, help.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
We'll get-
No,
get-
Space Godzilla.
Get Ghidorah and everybody, all the
Yeah,
monsters.
No, it just comes around again. Boy, I spoiled myself some. Can you see that? Is that cool?
It's black. It's perfect.
Anyhow,
Well, excellent, guys. Well, this was a wonderful, and you guys see the process.
Sure.
That's the
it's like a cocktail party without cocktails.
Yes, and we get to, you guys, we don't know anything about anyone until they start talking.
Truly.
We provide the forum to be able to talk and for each other, and that's the win-win. That's a good thing.
Good idea.
Yay! Hey, I'm so glad you-
This one is called Everything Lives. You ever heard of the river who's talking about the big mountains all covered with trees? The leaves have a message, they're always squawking. The person with someone called breeze. Oh, everything lives, like the moon and the sky and the stars at night. Everything lives, like your hair and your skin, your toes and your eyes. It exists just like this, ways we can't understand. Someday we will, one day we may. We start using the other 90% of our brain. Laughing stones rolling down the precipice, clapping shells washing up to the shore. There's a babbling brook that will never cease. Children will always be born. Oh, everything lives, like the moon and the sky, the stars at night. Everything lives, like your hair and your skin, your toes and your eyes. It exists just like this, ways we can't quite recall. Someday we'll know, someday we will. We stop thinking we know it all. Bricks in my house have a story to tell. They were a mountain or a piece of a shell. The floors never stop, they relate to the walls. The doors are good friends with the halls. Oh! Indians believe in a natural spirit. I sometimes can feel when this gives. The atoms are whispering, now can you hear it? Proclaiming that everything lives. Oh, everything lives, like the moon and the sky, the stars at night. Everything lives, like your hair and your skin, your toes and your eyes. Everything lives, like the sun and the clouds and the stuff all around it exists just like this, ways that are a little bit hazy. Someday we'll see, one day we'll know. then all the scientists can stop going so crazy. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.